Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. There's so much going on in our world, our universe. Sometimes it's hard to make sense of what's happening. Interestingly, this gentleman helps us make some sense from the eyes of science. And he's had many eureka moments over the decades, literally decades, published many articles, has taught, has spoken. And I think his memoir, the title of it alone, says everything here. Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. Now, when I hear that title, for me, what resonates is the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen in 5 seconds from right now, but we do know what has happened. It's been kind of chaotic. So we're gonna work with him today and learn a lot. He's our professional of the year. Grant Venerable joins us once again here on the program. Hey, Grant, how you doing?
Well, thank you, Stephen. I'm fine.
Yeah, wonderful to have you back here. And some of the things that have been happening, the wildfires. I just spoke with somebody who told me, and now we're weeks into it, and I'm hearing, San Diego is now about to be affected by these fires. And of course, we have the political situation, new regime. We don't do politics here, but these are the facts. We look at the facts. And there's a lot going on, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown in our world. What are your overall thoughts on what's happening within our nation, our world, and how to navigate that?
But that's the question, and it really goes to the prequel of my memoir. So that's where I'm going to begin and see where we can go with that. I want to state that all strategic and urban planning must start to begin with the origins of the universe and the laws of the universe as cosmos. When you mention the word cosmos, that means we're talking about actually the basic order and harmony of the universe. We have to go straight to that before we even talk about how to get water to certain locations, fire hydrants, things like that.
Yes.
Whatever needs to be legislated, we can't go there first. That's the continuing mistake. We tend to be we get self-satisfied as human beings. We want to solve something quickly and move on with life as usual. And the fires are becoming life as usual. So it means we have to do something else because what we're doing and have been doing is not working. I want to start the conversation with the prequel to my memoir. And the title of the prequel is From Eden's Dawn to Freedom's Light, God's Race and History in the AI Revolution, an essay prequel to our human future by Grant Venerable, yours truly. The prequel is an introduction to my memoir, Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. When I started writing the memoir 12, 13 years ago, I did not have that title. I just began writing about my own family, the origins of the family, and my own origins in early education. But something else took charge of my mind. And by the time I finished it in the last year, I was writing about chaos, the chaos that was to be, that we didn't really know anything about in 2010. This memoir, now I'm reading from the memoir, from the prequel. It's an essay prologue. This memoir describes the ascent of my Scott Venerable ancestors from 17th to 21st century America. It also portrays the forgotten power of something called the double shadow, a driving force of life that can create or destroy. Jubal is its name. Jubal is the forebear of music and a descendant of Cain in ancient Hebraic tradition. Jubal is linked to this force. The shadow motif joins together the mind's unifying fides, Fides, trust and fidelity, mythos, mythos, the mythos of memory, with its flip side, the divisive phobos, fear and envy. Phobos is the logos of self-serving ego logic, a condition that has tracked and dogged human existence since Eden. The shadow motif is central to art, love, relationship, philosophy, education, religion, and of course, music, from philharmonic to jazz. It is also central to the mathematical sciences and technology. The double shadow is implicated in humankind's either or, us against them labeling urges like cultural divide, woke, race, gender, and other groupthink hyperbole. Happily, a both and them are us. Them are us spirit is once again stirring in the land. Now that sets the tone for everything that we have to talk about here. And it goes to porch sitting in Georgia, USA. I've resided in the state of Georgia for over 25 years, and like other regions in the Deep South, people still enjoy the custom of porch sitting on late summer afternoons. This essay is based on a true, if apocryphal, tale among longtime porch sitters, including the members of Eden's heavenly court, Elohim and his co-creators. As we look in on them, they are seated on the great porch of the Garden of Eden in quiet reflection while watching events unfold on distant earth. After the fall of man and the expulsion of Adam and Eve from Eden's paradise, the Eden court sees mortals' difficult transition in heroic projects for survival and procreation of progeny, and triumphs and errors during the rise of agriculture, science, the civilized state, law, and government. Noted are endless wars for treasure and empire, and relationships, whether based on race, class, or sexual labels, or life's other dualistic ego categories. The mythical quartet is fascinated by projects after the fall over gobs of millennial time through today, and interactions between mortals and their predictable responses to unpredictable acts of God, like LA fires. Also fascinating are mortal efforts to create poly, mono, and non-theistic religions in the forging of secular societies, ethics, policies, and politics, and how achieving a measure of power and control in their lives brings needless complexity, resulting in misery around nearly everything mortals seem to touch. And then that gets into further things like drugs, unseemly entertainments, technologies as panaceas to cure vexing challenges, lead to even greater complexity and chaos at the end of the day. Now, does this start to set the tone, Stephen?
It really does. Can I share a question that's resonating with me, Grant?
Yes, indeed.
So we know what we know. We look at, that even the title footprints in the chaotic unknown. We look at today, recently, seems like a lot of chaos. Was there always chaos no matter what time we're looking at? Would that be, would it be fair to say that chaotic unknown would apply even 30 years ago, 40, 50, 60, 70?
Yes, yes, because it's something that, one thing, humans have not adequately prepared themselves for chaos as a property of the universe. Nothing gets done in this universe without chaos understood as what it is mathematically, as physicists understand chaos. And I'll even throw in here, as the writers of religion understand chaos. Chaos can be bad or it could be good, but it depends upon how well we understand chaos. That's what's happening now. Life could not have happened without a chaotic condition that existed prior to molecules coming into the traits of life, living organisms, living cells, single cells, multiple cells together that aggregated and became living organisms such as fish, birds, mammals, reptiles, other
So
things.
I want to push pause for one moment, and I think it might be a pinnacle moment. How do you define chaos?
Chaos is the hidden order in what we think we see as reality.
I gotta
It's a
process. I
different,
gotta process that for a second, Greg.
in other words, it's a different kind of order than what we're used to. And
But
that's why
but there is order. But there is order in chaos.
definitely it's order. It's order
Wow.
that has to be mastered and learned and understood. And if my favorite example are hurricanes and earthquakes.
Hmm.
And hurricanes keep surprising us. Even though we have the scientific means to predict the fact of the arrival of a hurricane, we still cannot predict arrival where or
Mm.
what will be the power of the hurricane. But the hurricane started from small hurricanic events, small vortices in the Atlantic Ocean waters, tiny little vortices that you can't even see. What
Hmm.
happens is once these vortices begin recognizing each other, they exchange energy with each other. That exchange is what chemists and physicists refer to as resonance. It's what the astrophysicists are referring to as quantum entanglement through resonance.
Well, you bring up a wonderful point here, and this, I guess, when you first said that there's always chaos, it's organized in the chaos. My first thought was, how can that be? But even as a weather forecaster would say, we've got a storm organizing in the Atlantic. They use that word. So there had to be an semblance of order for that hurricane to take place. It just didn't pop up. And
That's
it's
right.
interesting you even note that we know it's coming. But we're still surprised by the call it the chaos. We know we 48 hours, could be even more, a week. We know it's on its way, but we
You
still
know,
act surprised.
I live in that strange space in Georgia that's between Florida and South and North Carolina,
Hmm.
where we know a hurricane is on the way,
Sure.
but we don't know. My home has been in this little trench in the middle of northwestern Georgia, and one never knows where the winds are going to come from and go to, and the rains that the winds carry. So it keeps us in a state of uncertainty. That's another word that is scientific that goes along with chaos. There's a definition of uncertainty without which we cannot do physics, from the uncertainty principle of quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we're using the property of uncertainty to actually gain more certainty on things that we can know. Now, that's the paradox of our great big cosmos that we live in. And it should be a key to getting more humility in our human selves. But this double shadow is what keeps us from it, or rather, mastering our own double shadow. Whatever problems that we have, they exist in miniature in our own individual beings. And that's a difficult thing to have to face, because whatever evil is in the world is in that double shadow in each individual human being. And human beings that master that double shadow become the recognized people in history as above it, above that, who can point out new directions to go. And it is almost as if my early life set me up to discover that by the various crises that my family had to go through, beginning with ancestors and using the wisdom of ancestors passed generation to generation. When that transmission stops happening, the young.
I need to ask this question, Grant. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is the
No, please,
this is the wonderings of many of us.
please.
Here we go. There are many that believe that there are no coincidences in life, that things happen for a quote unquote reason. And that being said, do you agree? We talk about organized chaos. It's chaos can appear kind of crazy. How did this even happen? But it was maybe meant to happen. What are your thoughts there? Really, really, very, very much curious to hear your thoughts.
The universe was set up like that. And that's what the question comes up: by whom or by what? And that's turned to be the role of religion to deal with that. But the role of science and mathematics has been the how. And that's where I have emphasized my studies, my time, along with the complementation of religion, which has to do with the unknown and learning how to stop trying to control the unknown. And the more we live with the unknown, these so-called coincidences become our allies, put there as if they were supposed to be there. And I've learned a language form that is not the certainty forms that we learn in our education, but a good education helps us live with that uncertainty and the unknown. Now, where do we go from there? Stephen, where do we go from there?
I'm not really sure. I just wonder, when you look at and we've all, all of our families personally, all of that have faced adversity. Would you say that those things that happen in your life, they were meant to be, it needed to happen for whatever reason? We're not even going for the reason here.
Last week we started with that topic. We started with the tragedy of my extended family in losing our mother, my father in losing his wife to a severe disease condition called malignant hypertension. One does not want to have severe conditions like that, but sometimes if we're guided, no, the word is if we allow ourselves to be guided by clues that are right around us. How do I describe that? If we're around wise people in our families or among our friendship circles, or happen to stumble upon answers without expecting it, we get answers. Some people, well, throughout history, people get so amazed with answers that appear to work. That's where the whole idea of deities come in, and miracles, words like God. Does it mean that those things exist or do not exist? It means if we look carefully, the answers are there. And then traditions get developed on how to increase the probability of finding those answers. It was in the loss of our mother in which I discovered some of the cosmic principles that I have turned to in later years of my life, that started in my PhD dissertation at the University of Chicago, in beginning to see how scientific principles of physics and chemistry can actually help us understand ourselves as a social species and navigate our own problems. Well, that was a strange thing for a graduate student to be discussing, but graduate students of much intelligence are always discussing strange things like that. That's part of the joy of learning and learning difficult subjects in the sciences, the humanities, philosophy, religion, and places like Chicago University are perfect places. I don't mean that they're perfect, but I mean they set up conditions where people are unafraid to tackle them, no matter how crazy they may look to other people. And that's the cue. Why does the University of Chicago have more Nobel laureates associated with them in economics than just about any other university on planet Earth? It's because of that freedom to think without being ridiculed. Or if you're ridiculed, you just ignore the ridicule and keep following your instincts. So what the long and short of this story is, that's where my whole idea of the Venn matrix of the system came about in 1980, after realizing the structure of my family was like that of a small cosmos and obeyed the same laws pretty much as a small cosmos. And it meant that certain kinds of people evolved to help the family fulfill its earthly purpose, which number one is to survive, and number two is to have some sense of satisfaction in fulfilling the lives of the members of the family.
Grant,
And that's
we're out of time. I want to ask this one final question today. So much like these are questions that in my circles, we, not just the one I'm about to pose, but everything here, I hear all the time. People wonder about coincidences and all of that. In a sentence, why are we here?
why are we here? That's right. Yeah, why are we here?
Why do you feel that we
Um,
exist?
well, it's to survive for number one,
Mhm.
but it's to survive how? And there are things that we enjoy doing. And the loftier those things are in terms of a cosmic universe, the higher the thinking, the more fulfillment we get.
Hmm.
The farther we get from a purely materialistic world of satisfying with what we see on video feeds on our internet, we sit down and look at all of the wham wonderful gee whiz automobiles that the movie stars purchased and other things that come through, all of the gee whiz aspects of life. But when you get down to it, how much meaning does that give you in your life?
It's a great question, because so many who have won the lottery, or even individuals that have done really well, that have the penthouse in New York City, or have the house on the hill, and everything is just we look at their lives, well, oh, it's so perfect. Most will tell you that wasn't. They thought that was it. That wasn't it. That wasn't it. They weren't fulfilled.
It wasn't it at all.
Right. Grant, I would just love to keep talking. I think we need to pick we need to do part 2 on this, because
Yeah,
it's very impactful.
That's the flow there. It's needed.
Your memoir available on Amazon. You can Google it.
Amazon, Apple, Barnes and Noble. Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown.
I call
4
that
volumes, ebooks.
I call it the answers. The answers are in the memoir. And then we all have questions. Grant, thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. And I know we were talking about, chaotic situations, but this, kind of led to very fundamental things. I'm wondering, what is life? What is life? And looking forward next time we get together.
Thanks a lot, Stephen.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.